we have got the longly anticipated arbitration guide in Warframe. We are going to be covering every single topic in this. We're going to go over build, location of what maps are worth doing, tile sets, every small detail that you could imagine we are going to go over. First things first, why would you want to do an arbitration? This is going to get you galvanized mods, it's going to get you Indo so you can max out galvanized mods, and it's going to get you Kuva so you can roll ribbons and make all kinds of platinum. This is, in my opinion, the best farm in the entire game. So what is an arbitration? Upon completing the Ares Junction on Pluto, a new special alert mission is available. This will rotate every hour into different endless missions like defense, interception, survival, and etc. What is different about these missions, you may ask? Well, they spawn arbitration drones. These drones will tether nearby enemies and make them full immune to Warframe abilities. Destroying these drones yield a 6% chance to drop Vitus Essence, and this drop chance is affected by resource drop chance boosters and relay blessings. Vitus Essence are used to buy wares from the Arbiters of Hexus vendor in the relay, so things like Kuva, things like galvanized mods, etc, etc. Now, if you go to the first link in the description of this video and you join our Discord server and you go to the arbitrations alert, this is where you're gonna find what arbitrations are worth doing. This will tell you the type of mission. So for example, we've got a Void Cascade right here. This is an F tier. You would not want to touch an F tier rated arbitration. It'll tell you the tile set, which is the Zeramin. When this expires, then it tells you which one's up in the next rotation. It'll tell you, for example, there's another F tier and then followed up by another F tier. And could you imagine, followed up by another F tier. The next time that there's going to be a good arbitration, it'll say notable down here at the bottom. So in 9 hours, this is extremely important for determining if you want to do an arbitration and why you'd want to do this. Me personally, I never do anything below a B. In this video, there may be some C tier tile sets if you've got a meta arbitration squad with all the roles covered that have experience. There may be a couple C tiers that you can do, but for the most part, B, A, and S tier are the ones that you're going to be looking for. Our goal in meta arbitrations is to maximize the Vitus Essence we obtain. We do this by buffing each other and killing enemies as soon as they spawn. So now that you know when a good mission is coming up, it is time to set up a meta team. A meta team consists of main DPS frames and support frames. For example, the main DPS frames are Saryn and Cyte. These roles are the most responsible in Vitus Essence drops. They're going to be getting the most kills on your team. Saryn Prime will be getting her kills using the Kuva Ogris. To buff the Kuva Ogris, we aim for high strength and duration. Now, let's go over the Saryn Prime build. Power donation makes you lose 30% strength and gives plus 30% to allies. If all 4 squad members have this equipped, everyone will receive 90% strength and end up with 60% because each person had minus 30. Prime sure-footed for knockdown resistance, Constitution, Augur Message, and Prime Continuity for the ability duration, Blind Rage, Umbral Intensify, and Energy Conversion for ability strength. And you need 2 augments, Contagion Cloud and Venom Dose. Extremely important for the build. These 2 augments you cannot be missing. So when you're using Saryn, first you're going to hold your 1 to give everyone in a 15-meter radius increased corrosive damage with Venom Dose augment. Then your number 2, Molt, to increase sprint speed to run faster around the map. Use number 3 to imbue your weapon with additional toxin damage. Contagion Cloud augment will leave toxic clouds, extremely important for the DPS role. And then number 4, subsume energized munitions for ammo efficiency. Essentially what this is going to let you do is get 5 shots for the price of 1 in your Kuva Ogris, and it's going to allow you to spam and shoot as much as you possibly can and get all the enemy spawns. You're going to want 3 green shards, 3 of them being the toxin status effects deal 45% more damage. You're going to want 1 Tall Forge green to increase your corrosive stack so you have full armor strip. And then a parkour velocity is just like a quality of life thing that you're going to use on a lot of your Warframe builds to make them move around a lot quicker so you can get back to your anchor point. Now, you're going to use the Kuva Ogris. The Kuva Ogris is your main source of mob clearing. The Valence element you want on your Kuva Ogris is cold. On the Ogris, you're going to want to use a primed Bane mod, galvanized chamber for multi-shot, magazine warp for increased magazine size, ammo drum increases your ammo pool, but also makes it so you get 2 ammo from dispensary. Very, very important detail. Heavy caliber at rank 6 for more damage, but more importantly, the negative accuracy makes the rocket spread more. So you're going to be covering more range essentially with a heavy caliber at rank 6. If you don't have a heavy caliber at rank 6, you can try rank 10. The thing is, though, it's going to be so inaccurate that you might just be completely missing doorways. So rank 6 heavy caliber is the most optimal. Prime Firestorm to improve the weapon's blast radius. Very self-explanatory. Infected Clip makes viral with the cold valence. A rank 2 adhesive blast. And the reason you want a rank 2 adhesive blast is because it's going to be 50% of the time it's going to be stuck to the doorway, and 50% of the time it's going to explode on impact. This increases the effective coverage time of the Night Watch Napalm from 6 seconds to 11. The most important thing to this whole entire setup, it basically just puts a whole bunch of flames on the ground that kills all enemies in sight. If you're a min-maxer and you want to get a Riven for this weapon, you want to look for stats like Toxin, multi-shot, or magazine capacity with a viable negative. Now, your second DPS option is Cyte, and I'm going to give you all a little bit of a disclaimer. Before you try to hop right in and attempt to DPS with Cyte, you need to fully understand a few things. Cyte is way more aim intensive and requires constant firing uptime. The Sobek, which is the weapon you're going to be using with Cyte, doesn't have the lingering AoE that Night Watch Napalm has. So enemies won't be dying when they spawn. You need to fully understand the spawn locations and where to aim. This takes practice, and your first few tries won't result in a lot of Vitus Essence drops. Don't bother taking Cyte into missions where the spawns are already easily reachable for the Ogris. The Ogris will do good enough on very self-explanatory spawn rotations, and it'll clear the enemies that you don't even need to worry about Cyte. One last thing, Cyte will also need to be the host because of a bug where acid shells will not work if he is not the host. So if you want to take on the challenge and attempt to play with Cyte, you want these mods. Combat Discipline makes you lose health on kill, but this will proc Arcane Avenger. Arcane Avenger makes it so you get more crit chance when you get damaged. Vigilante Pursuit for enemy radar. Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, and Umbral Intensify for your ability strength. Narrow-Minded and Prime Continuity for ability duration. Prime Flow and Equilibrium to sustain our energy. And Natural Talent for casting speed. You're also going to want to use Arcane Crespecular. This gives us more ability strength, but more importantly, a 3x final crit multiplier. You also want 4 purple shards that increase primary electricity damage, and 1 yellow parkour velocity to collect your Vitus Essence faster and get back to your camping spot. Now, you're not going to be using the Kuva Ogris like I said. You're only going to be using the Kuva Sobek, and you want the valence element to be magnetic. On your Sobek, you're going to mod for Galvanized Hell and Vigilante Armaments for multi-shot, Prime Ravage for crit damage, Prime Charge Cell for electricity, a primed faction mod, Critical Deceleration for crit chance, Shotgun Elementalist for more status damage, and the Sobek Augment mod, Acid Shells. Acid Shells causes enemies killed by this Sobek to explode, dealing corrosive damage. Also, you must have Galvanized Acceleration. This is going to increase the damage fall off with your Sobek, so it's a no-brainer. And the Arcane Primary Deadhead. If you're a min-maxer and want to get a Riven for your Sobek, you want to look for electricity, multi-shot, or crit damage. Now, on the market, you can look for a projectile speed, but you unfortunately cannot roll this on Rivens anymore. So if you're going to find one with projectile speed, which is going to help damage fall off, you're going to be spending a lot of platinum. But this is not required. This is just if you want to absolutely maximize these methods as much as possible. So this is how Cyte works. You're going to cast his one, which gives you punch through to your weapons and allows you to shoot through walls. You're then going to hold 2 and open Cyte's ammo wheel and set it to electricity in the mission, so you can spam 2 every time you're about to empty your magazine. Basically infinite ammo. Cast your 3 for invisibility. Your invisibility is going to help with your survivability a little bit, but more importantly, it's going to allow you to get the Arcane Crespecular buff for your crit damage. And then obviously you're going to cast your 4 for Nourish. This is going to grant you and your allies some viral damage, but it's going to help your energy sustainability, and that's what we're primarily using it for. You will be spamming your 2 a lot, so you're going to need a ton of energy. Mirage will also be able to kill enemies, but does not have the lingering toxin clouds like Saryn does. does. So Mirage is like what we like to call a secondary DPS. And so the good thing about Mirage is she has Eclipse, which is giving more damage to your primary DPS. We are going to be using Power Donation, Blind Rage, Energy Conversion, Augur Secrets, and Umbral Intensify for ability strength, Narrow-Minded, Prime Continuity, and Molt Efficiency for ability duration, Prime Sure-Footed for the knockdown resistance, and then you're going to need her 2 augments, Hall of Malevolence and Total Eclipse. Hall of Malevolence makes our clones do 5% more damage by every time you kill an enemy, and Total Eclipse makes your allies gain the Eclipse buff when standing near you. You also want Arcane Bellicose, which the Wisp will proc for you. Mirage is pretty flexible with shards. I suggest running a Parkour Velocity, a Casting Speed, Ability Strength, and 1 Corrosive shard. This is how Mirage works. You're going to cast your 1 to summon your clones. At base, they will do 20% of your Ogris' total damage, but thanks to the Hall of Malevolence, we get an additional 5% per kill. Cast 3 for Eclipse and increase weapon damage, and if you want, you can go into your settings and invert this so you don't have to hold it down and you can just tap it instead. Now, you want to make sure to stay near your primary DPS as much as possible. These are the guys that are going to be doing the most damage and getting the most kills, and you're going to be buffing their weapon damage. And just like Saryn, you want to subsume energizing munitions on the 4 for ammo efficiency. Mirage uses the Ogris too, but has a slight change in the build. You want to swap Infected Clip for Vigilante Armaments and change the Valence element to Toxin, which you can easily swap now thanks to Elemental Vice. Now let's go over the support frames. Wisp is your absolute must-have support frame. Wisp primarily is going to increase your fire rate, your movement speed, and she will also give roar to the main DPS. We want to get as much ability strength as possible with Wisp. In order to achieve this, we got Power Donation, Power Drift, Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, Archon Intensify, Amara's Hatred, Energy Conversion, Augur Secrets, Arcane Bellicose, and Molt Vigor Arcanes to get as much ability strength as possible. You'll use Prime Continuity for some duration, and then you're also going to use Piercing Roar Augment since we're going to be subsuming Roar on her 4, and that's just going to allow you to recast Roar as much as you possibly want. You also want 5 ability strength shards to really pump up that ability strength and use the Moderai Focus School. Now, let me tell you exactly how to get the most out of your motes. 1, if you've got a Jade, you wait for Jade to use the ability strength. You're going to go into your operator and Void Sling twice towards the ground and cast an operator ability. Now, you're going to ensure that you've picked up an energy orb to proc energy conversion. Then you are going to place your health mote first to gain enough health to trigger your Bellicose, which is your Arcane, and proc Archon Intensify, which grants an additional 30% strength. You're then going to pick up another energy orb and cast another operator ability for Molt Vigor, and then you place your haste mote. Now, I have to point out, you do not have to do this with every single mote. Additional motes will extend the timer, but keep the highest mote. So everything that I just explained is a sequence of order for Wisp. You do this whole order, you do this whole rotation to absolutely get the most amount of strength for one singular mote, and then every other mote that you place is going to have that highest amount of ability strength that you can possibly have. So you don't have to worry about doing this process over and over again. And after you do this, you're basically set with your motes. Make sure not to bother placing shock motes because it can just hurt the frames in the game and you don't need the shock motes. Now, the most important aspect as your Wisp is to keep roar up for both of your DPS players as much as possible. So basically, just keep on using your roar so your teammates have more buffs. Now, Wisp and other support frames use the Afentis for its unique trait. The spear lasts for 10 seconds. Allies that kill one enemy while in the spears or receive 100% ammo pool and 50% reload speed and 20% fire rate and 50% less recoil for 40 seconds. On the mods on the Afentis, you literally don't need any mods, but Amalgam Serration is nice for extra sprint speed. If you want to throw some damage mods on there, you can, but you literally don't need anything else on this. The next support you can use is Volt. So on Volt, we've got Power Donation, Power Drift, Precision Intensify, Augur Secrets, Blind Rage, Energy Conversion, and Arcane Bellicose to buff our ability strength, Prime Continuity and Narrow-Minded, and Molt Efficiency for ability duration, and Stretch to make it a little bit easier to proc your speed and shock. And then you're going to want to use the Shock Trooper Augment. Try to get as many ability strength shards as you can on Volt, but once again, if you can't get 5 Tall Forge Red shards on here for ability strength, just get as many as you can. And this is how you're going to use your abilities. Very self-explanatory. You're going to hold your 1, which will cast shock Shock Trooper Augment, increasing electricity damage to your DPS. You're going to cast your 2 to buff your allies with movement speed and reload speed. And then you're going to subsume Dispensary onto your 4 and keep that up pretty much 24/7. This will drop energy orbs and ammo packs for the DPS on your squad. And your Vault can use the Afentis too if your Wisp doesn't have the Afentis. All you need is one Afentis on your team. Like, the buffs don't stack, but you want to make sure as a support, at least one of your supports have the Afentis. It helps out so much. Now, let's go over Jade. You're going to build Jade very similar to Vault. You're going to use Power Donation, Power Drift, Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage, Energy Conversion, Augur Secrets, Precision Intensify, and Amara's Hatred for ability strength. You're also going to use Arcane Bellicose for even more strength. Go ahead and use Prime Continuity and Narrow-Minded and Multificiency for more ability duration. You're going to use your 2 for squad ability strength bonus. Just make sure you have ability strength set on your 2 properly. She has 3 different abilities. Just make sure it's the ability strength, the green one. And just like Bolt, we subsume Dispensary on her 4. And you want to keep this up at all times. On Jade, I always use the Afentis too, even if my Wisp has an Afentis. But I always just like to go Afentis on any support that I go, just so I'm doing as much as I can for my team. Now, some extra loadout options you can utilize is like the Akarius. This is going to be a secondary weapon. And this is just going to be to help your DPS if needed. Sometimes your DPSs get overwhelmed and they can't handle all the enemies, and it might be one of your final rounds that you run because you're like, yo, my DPS ain't handling this too well. We might need a dip so we don't lose all our Vitus Essence. On our Akarius, we've got the Amligam Barrel Diffusion for multi-shot, Lethal Turret for multi-shot and fire rate, Prime Quick Draw for reload speed, Prime Heated Charge for heat, Prime Target Cracker for crit chance, Prime Pistol Gambit for crit damage, Prime Formation for increased blast radius, and Prime Slip Magazine for a bigger load. Here's a little tip. If you don't have Prime Sure-Footed on your Warframe, you can use Secondary Fortifier to steal enemies' overguards. This is actually the better option even if you don't have Prime Sure-Footed. Now, a huge quality of life melee that you can use is the Praedos. It just gives you extra parkour velocity, and it literally just makes you jump around the map that much quicker. You can pretty much run whatever companion you want as long as you've got Resourceful Retriever on it, so you have like an 18% chance to double your Vitus Essence pickups, and you're going to be picking up a lot of Vitus Essence if you're running these meta Arbis properly. You want to double it as much as you possibly can. But if you want a specific Kubro to use a Sahasha Kubro, and that is for the dig mod to get ammo and energy drops, or you can use the Adarza Kavat to get the Cat Eyes crit buff. This is super helpful for Cyte, so you get extra crit with Cyte. Now, there's a couple of other Warframes that we're not really going to cover in this video because they're just kind of niche, like Octavia, like Chroma, and potentially Noko. I've heard some people have been using Noko, but for the mass majority of what we just gave you, those are basically all the builds that you're going to need for meta Arby. If you have every single one of those builds, you're set. You're going to be able to do meta Arby every time one pops up. You'll be able to find a team in recruitment chat, and you'll definitely be able to find a team in the Thack Pack in the Discord server. Once again, another reason you should join it, or even in the Thack Pack clan, which if you want to join my clan, my IGN is in the description of this video. You can just message me or anybody in the clan and we'll get you an invite to it. The whole entire clan loves arbitrations. We love working together in my community and just trying to get as much loot as we possibly can. So if you're interested in something like that, help yourself to the Discord or try to message me and join the clan. But now that you have got your loadouts ready, it's time to get into the mission. There are two primary mission objectives: defense and interception. In interception missions, you want to capture 2 points. You can neutralize 1 point halfway to be safe. Generally, your support frames like your Wisp or Jade are the ones that are going to be neutralizing. This way we can slow down the waves and enemy levels, ensuring we stay in the mission for as long as possible. Essentially, if you have a slight edge on the enemy percentage, it's just going to juice the rounds out even longer so that the enemy levels don't just scale up infinitely. You don't want to end the round super quick. You want to draw them out as much as possible in interception, just so you can get as much enemies killed at a lower level to maximize the amount of loot that you're getting. That's why we're doing this. Now, for defense. Defense missions are super risky. You need to pay attention to the target defense at all times. If he dies, you fail the mission instantly. No bleed out timer, no second chances. The mission comes to an end and you just lost 500 Vitus Essence in one sitting. Man, I've had this happen a lot. The operative tends to fall around a random player and can be one-shotted easily past 90 waves. So to avoid this, collect Vitus near the end of waves. And I got another little tip for you. If you notice that the operative is following around one particular person in your mission, if that person goes into his operator form from his Warframe form and goes and collects the Vitus Essence, the operative will no longer follow you around. So if you get into like a safe place around your teammates, you can go collect your Vitus Essence and not worry about the defense following you around and potentially just getting one-shotted by a super high-level enemy. It's advertised to have a support run, Bazarin with Protective Sling. This will grant the operative immunity to damage for 5 seconds. Also, the Magnus Cloud Arcane can help, providing a larger sling radius. Your Volt can also help with his Volt shields to protect the operative. And Ancient Protector Specters can also help ensuring the operative stays alive thanks to the 90% damage reduction. Now, here's a bunch of like different tips that can help your runs endlessly if you're trying to min-max the amount of Vitus that you're gonna get, which I think we're all trying to do. And if you've made it to this point in the video, you should probably just go ahead and do these tips because they're gonna help you out in the long run. So you can min-max your Warframe with even more strength by using a Nidus Spectre. He benefits from Power Donation Aura and will use Link to give you more ability strength. And this is especially helpful for Wisp, but all positions can use a Nidus Spectre and just get a whole bunch more ability strength. On your Spectres that you use, you want to use the Bosmu and the Tenet Cycron so that Spectres don't steal your ammo drops. Another thing you need to know, your host needs to have good FPS, preferably at least over 100 FPS. Having bad FPS will significantly lower enemy spawns, thus less Vitus Essence drops. Another thing, make sure you're picking up your Vitus Essence regularly. Since we are killing enemies really quickly, there will be a lot of drops laying on the floor. If this gets too much, old loot is going to start despawning and you're going to be losing Vitus Essence drops. So do not wait. I would even say longer than 30 seconds to go get your Vitus Essence. Now, something super important is you cannot press tab to view kills, to view damage percentage, to view your Vitus Essence while you're in the mission, especially when you're later into the mission. The game client becomes clunky during longer missions and people will disconnect from the host. Another bug is if you're playing on window or have a multi-monitor setup and your game pauses when you alt-tab, then you will disconnect from the host if you do so for more than 7 seconds. So you cannot alt-tab whenever you're in these missions, and you can't press tab to view your essence because it can break the host the game, which will inevitably ruin your whole run. So I know it's very tempting to want to look at how much Vitus Essence you have when you're in these missions. You're like, dude, I'm getting so much Vitus Essence. How much do I have? But just wait until you complete the mission so you don't break the mission. Another great tip, if you don't have Prime Sure-Footed, you can summon your Arc Gun for 2,000 Overguard, and Overguard will completely prevent knockdowns from happening. Having your map open allows you to see better when enemies are getting spawned. Another thing, set both of your energy colors on the Kuva Ogris to black to effectively mute Napalm's visuals. This will actually save you some frames in the game, and when you're going for these late runs, you want to save as much frames as possible. Frames are super important for maximizing the amount of enemies spawned. You can also make your Warframe energy color black to mute ability visuals as well. Now, here are some recommended settings that will help you out so much in the long run. You can make the Kuva Ogris full auto with this setting. Just be careful though, because you can drain your ammo very quickly. You only need to shoot each spawn 2 to 3 times as you're rotating through. Disable screen shake as well. Max your field of view. This helps you see a lot more at once. Turn off motion blur and depth of field because they can be super annoying for these runs. And also turning off bloom and elemental effects helps reduce strain on your GPU, which is gonna just allow you to get more frames essentially. If you're a console player, not as big as a deal as a PC player. Turn your visual effects intensity to the lowest, and you can actually turn on your enemy highlight, and it makes seeing the enemies a lot easier. I actually just keep this on a lot of missions because I just visually like to see where my enemies are, and it like highlights the outside of them. I think it's really cool to see them like that. Now, there's one more thing that you can do in the missions, and we call this med tower stacking. If you have the Mantis Orbiter Craft, you can summon a medical tower, and if you and all your teammates do it on the same same spot, you can stack super high towers to allow you to get better angles to essentially get more kills. It's just a little neat thing that you can do to hit the spawns a lot easier of enemies. You can also keep doors open by using the motorcycle, making it easier to reach some enemy spawns. So some doors will hold enemies in them. If you put a motorcycle on it, it'll keep the door open so the spawns don't just sit there and get clunky. Now, boys, since y'all have made it to the end of the video, I have got a huge announcement for y'all. We are doing a massive giveaway to one of you all in the comment section right now. We're going to be giving a Cyte with all the mods you will need for meta Arby's. We'll be giving away a Mirage Prime set with all the mods you will need, a Wisp Prime set with all the mods that you will need, a Jade with all the mods that you will need, and a Vault with all the mods that you will need. To one person in the comment section, all you have to do is be liked, commented, and tell me what you found most helpful about this video. We're trying to bless up one of y'all big time right now. This is a over 1,000 platinum easily giveaway that we're going to give to one of y'all because this has been a highly anticipated video and there's been a lot of work that has went into this video. I got to emphasize one more time, highly recommend y'all join the Discord. It's a great place to stay up to date with the ThackerrYT community, and it would mean the world to me if y'all checked out the live stream for it. We're honestly starting to try to stream every single night. We would love to have y'all here. If you can't meet the live streams, would love to have y'all check out some of the YouTube videos. We work super hard on videos around here. We've been trying to become one of the best Warframe communities in the entire game. But with that being said, YouTube family, thank you all so much for making it to the end of this video. I love you guys so much, and I will see you all in the next one.